Welcome to the world of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening. The crystalline chandeliers of the stellar palette cast prismatic shadows across Jason Rivers' face as he traced the rim of his empty whiskey glass. Around him, New Shanghai's elite chattered in dozens of languages, their conversations mixing with the soft hum of anti-grav servers gliding between tables. "Another Martian single malt, Mr. Rivers?" The maitre d' Chen materialized at his shoulder with practiced stealth. Jason nodded, studying the man's perfectly pressed suit and carefully neutral expression. After 5 years as a regular, Chen still treated him with the same calculated deference as day one. Smart man. "And I believe I'm ready to order." Jason's augmented eye scanned the holographic menu floating above the table. The prices made even his considerable wealth ache. "The chef's special, the one that requires advanced certification." Chen's eyebrows lifted a fraction. "An adventurous choice, sir. I'll need to verify your credentials." Jason pressed his thumb to the menu's scanner. 5 years ago, he would have been monitoring exit routes, analyzing threat vectors. Now he just felt empty as his bounty hunter's license and banking data scrolled past. "Everything appears to be in order." Chen bowed slightly. "The chef will begin preparations immediately. Estimated time, 45 minutes. Jason watched him glide away, then turned to stare out the window. 100 stories below, New Shanghai's streets pulsed with neon and plasma, endless streams of hovercars weaving between towering arcologies. Somewhere in that maze of steel and light, his younger self was still running through rain-slicked alleys, hunting targets with a smile on his face and blood on his hands. The whiskey arrived, amber liquid catching the light. Jason took a slow sip, letting the smoky flavor coat his tongue. The restaurant had filled up while he waited, the usual mix of corporate royalty and old money. A Centaurian trade minister's crystalline carapace sparkled at a corner table. Near the kitchen, a cluster of European diplomats floated in their levitation chairs, tendrils waving as they sampled wine. Time crawled. Jason ordered another whiskey, then another. The conversation around him grew louder as other patrons received their exotic dishes: flame-grilled Titan squid, Martian cave eel, delicacies that cost more than most people made in a year. Finally, Chen returned, followed by 2 servers pushing a covered anti-grav cart. The maitre d's face was carefully composed, but something in his eyes made Jason's old instincts stir. "Your special order, Mr. Rivers." Chen gestured, and the servers lifted the silver dome with practiced flourish. Jason's glass crashed to the floor. Bound to the cart with shimmering force restraints was a young woman. Her skin was a deep emerald green that seemed to shimmer in the chandelier light. Dark hair fell in waves past her shoulders, framing a face of otherworldly beauty. But it was her eyes that froze Jason in place, golden irises filled with terror and desperate intelligence. She was gagged, but he could see her throat working, trying to speak. Their eyes met, and suddenly Jason's mind exploded with foreign emotions: fear, rage, hopeless despair washing over him in waves. He jerked back, gasping. "Is everything satisfactory, sir?" Chen asked smoothly. "I assure you, she's been properly sedated for optimal." "What is this?" Jason's voice was barely a whisper. "As requested, the rarest delicacy in our catalog, one of the last empaths. Their neural tissue is said to produce the most extraordinary sensory experiences." Chen's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Shall we proceed with the preparation?" Jason looked back at the woman, the person, they were presenting as his dinner. She had stopped struggling against the restraints, but her eyes burned into his. Another wave of emotion hit him, weaker this time but clear as words. "Help me, please." 5 years of carefully maintained indifference shattered like his whiskey glass on the floor. Jason's augmented eye was already mapping the room, cataloging threats, plotting vectors, old habits resurging with terrifying ease. "Is there a problem, Mr. Rivers?" Chen's hand was sliding toward his jacket where Jason's combat implants detected an energy signature. Jason smiled, all teeth. "No problem at all." His hand found the environmental controls built into the table. "Just need to adjust the lighting." With a flick of his fingers, Jason overloaded the plasma chandeliers. The crystals exploded in a shower of sparks and glass, plunging the restaurant into chaos. Screams erupted as darkness fell, broken only by emergency strips along the floor and the city's neon glow through the windows. Jason was moving before Chen could draw his weapon. His cybernetic reflexes, dormant for years, sparked to life as he vaulted over the table. His fist connected with Chen's jaw with practiced precision, dropping the maitre d' before he could fire. The two servers reached for their own weapons, but Jason was already past them. His augmented eye pierced the darkness, highlighting the control panel on the woman's restraints. One sharp blow shattered it, and the force fields flickered out. She fell forward and Jason caught her. She was lighter than he expected and warm, so obviously, undeniably alive. He pulled the gag from her mouth as shouts and running footsteps approached from multiple directions. "Can you walk?" he asked. She nodded, throat working. Yes." Her voice was hoarse but musical, with an accent he couldn't place. "Then run." He grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the kitchen. Behind them, security officers burst through the main doors, pulse rifles charging with an ominous whine. They crashed through the kitchen's swinging doors as energy bolts sizzled past. Cooks and servers scattered, dropping plates and pans. Jason's combat systems highlighted optimal paths through the chaos, threat assessment scrolling across his vision. "Exit route," he muttered, scanning. There, a service elevator at the back. But between them and escape stood 3 more security guards, weapons raised. "Freeze!" one shouted. "Release the property and—" The woman beside him made a strange, keening sound. The guards suddenly staggered, clutching their heads. Jason didn't waste the opportunity, launching himself forward. A kick sent the first guard's weapon flying. An elbow strike dropped the second. The third managed to fire, but Jason was already moving, the energy bolt scorching the wall where he'd been standing. He grabbed the last guard's arm, twisted, and slammed him into a prep table. Pots and ingredients went flying as the man slumped unconscious. "Nice trick," Jason said, turning back to the woman. She was breathing hard, one hand pressed to her temple. "It hurts to do that," she gasped. "Can't do it again soon." More footsteps pounded behind them. Jason grabbed her hand again and ran for the elevator, batting the call button. The doors slid open agonizingly slowly. They dove inside just as more energy bolts filled the kitchen. Jason smashed the button for the garage level, then put his fist through the control panel. The elevator lurched downward as alarms began to wail throughout the building. "I'm Thea," the woman said suddenly, still catching her breath. "Thank you for—" She gestured vaguely at the chaos they'd left behind. "Jason, and don't thank me yet." He checked his weapons, a concealed needle gun in his jacket, a mono blade in his boot, not nearly enough for what was coming. "This is about to get much worse." "Why?" She studied him with those incredible golden eyes. "Why did you help me?" Jason opened his mouth, then closed it. 5 years of expensive therapy, of building a new life, of pretending he didn't see the darkness lurking beneath New Shanghai's glittering surface, all undone in an instant because he couldn't watch someone suffer, because maybe he was still the person he'd tried so hard to stop being. "Because you're not dinner," he said finally. "You're a person, and I used to be someone who helped people." The elevator shuddered to a halt. Jason drew his needle gun as the doors opened onto the dark parking garage. "Used to be?" Thea asked softly. Jason checked the shadows for movement. "Yeah, looks like I still am. Hope I'm not too rusty." The garage was a maze of luxury vehicles, their polished surfaces reflecting the sparse emergency lighting. Jason's augmented eye highlighted heat signatures, security teams converging from multiple directions. They had maybe 2 minutes before being surrounded. "My car's on level 3, he muttered. "They're blocking the ramps," Thea interrupted. When he glanced at her, she tapped her temple. "I can sense them. Many minds, all focused on us, angry, afraid." "Afraid?" Jason raised an eyebrow as they crouched behind a hover limo. "Of you." A ghost of a smile crossed her face. "They know who you were." Security feeds showed the teams getting closer. Jason cursed under his breath. 5 years of peace had made him sloppy. His car was too far, his weapons too few. But his combat implants were spinning up old protocols, presenting options. "How good are you at holding your breath?" he asked. Thea's eyes widened as she followed his gaze to the garbage disposal chute in the wall. "You can't be serious. Maintenance tunnel network. Runs through the whole building." He was already moving, keeping low between vehicles. "Unless you'd prefer to go back upstairs," she shuddered. "No, but—" Pulse rifle fire cut off her protest, turning a nearby luxury crawler into slag. They sprinted for the chute as more shots filled the air. Jason's enhanced reflexes let him dodge most, but he felt one graze his shoulder, leaving a line of fire. They reached the chute. Jason kicked the access panel open and helped Thea inside. "Feet first. There's a maintenance platform 2 levels down." She hesitated for just a moment, then slid into the darkness. Jason followed just as the security teams rounded the corner, their shots sparking off the closing panel. The chute was a tight fit, especially for someone his size. They plummeted through darkness, the smooth walls offering no purchase. Jason counted seconds, calculating their descent speed. Now. He grabbed Thea's arm with one hand and shot his monoblade into the wall with the other. The blade screamed against metal as it slowed their fall, sending sparks flying. They hit the maintenance platform hard enough to knock the wind from his lungs. "You know," Thea gasped, untangling herself from him, "when I hoped someone would rescue me, I didn't expect quite this much falling." Jason couldn't help but laugh as he got to his feet, checking for pursuit. "Sorry to disappoint. I'm a bit out of practice at the whole heroic rescue thing." "I wouldn't say disappointed." She brushed herself off, somehow managing to make even that simple movement graceful. "Though I do have questions. Many, many questions." Later. Jason's augmented vision pierced the gloom, highlighting a service door. "Right now, we need to—" His combat system screamed a warning. He tackled Thea as something whistled through the space where they'd been standing. A figure dropped onto the platform. Security, but different. Professional. Dressed in black combat gear with the Culinary Consortium's logo gleaming on the shoulder. The operative's mono whip lashed out again, nearly taking Jason's head off. He rolled, pushing Thea toward the door. "Run! But run!" She ran. The operative's whip cracked again, wrapping around Jason's arm. Pain lanced through him as the molecular sharp edge bit into his jacket, but his cyber-reinforced bones held. He grabbed the whip and pulled, yanking the operative off balance. They crashed together in a fury of strikes and counters. The operative was good. Augmented reflexes, combat implants probably better than Jason's aging models. But Jason had something implants couldn't give. Decades of experience and the muscle memory that came with it. He took hits, felt ribs crack, tasted blood. But slowly, methodically, he wore the operative down. A kick to the knee, an elbow to the throat. Finally, a precise strike to the temple that dropped them unconscious. Jason staggered to the door, his wounds already starting to throb. Thea waited just inside, golden eyes wide with concern. "You're hurt. I'll live." He retrieved the operative's weapon and credit chit. "But we need to move. That wasn't regular security. It was consortium. They'll have more coming." "The culinary consortium?" Thea's voice shook slightly. "They're the ones who captured me, who supply people like me to restaurants." "Yeah." Jason checked the service tunnel, clear for now. "And I just made myself their enemy by taking their property." He gave her a grim smile. "Hope you're ready for a chase, because it's going to be a long night." The maintenance tunnels wound through New Shanghai's underbelly like arteries, carrying them deeper into the city's shadows. Jason's augmented eye painted their path in infrared as they moved, his combat systems constantly scanning for pursuit. Beside him, Thea moved with surprising grace despite her ordeal, her green skin taking on an almost phosphorescent quality in the darkness. "We need a plan," she said after they'd put some distance between themselves and the restaurant. "They'll have locked down all official transport by now. Already on it." Jason paused at an intersection, checking coordinates. "I know someone who can get us off-grid transport. Old contact from my hunting days. Assuming she's still—" He froze. His audio implants picked up something in the tunnel behind them, the whisper-quiet sound of tactical boots on metal. "How many?" Thea whispered, clearly sensing his tension. "Too many." They ran. Behind them, the whispers became thundering footsteps as their pursuers abandoned stealth for speed. Energy bolts lit up the tunnel, turning ancient pipes into molten slag. Jason fired back with his stolen weapon, more to slow them down than with any hope of hitting them. The tunnel ended in a maintenance shaft, a straight drop down into darkness. Jason's map showed it connected to the old subway system, long abandoned after the city went vertical. Their only chance. "Remember what I said about falling?" he asked. Thea looked down the shaft, then back at the approaching lights. "I'm starting to think you only know one escape plan. It's a classic." He grabbed her hand. "Ready?" She squeezed his hand. "No, but yes." They jumped just as the consortium teams rounded the corner. The shaft dropped away beneath them, wind rushing past. Jason's targeting systems calculated their trajectory, highlighting possible grab points. There, a defunct power cable crossing the shaft. He reached out with his free hand, praying his aging augments could take the strain. They hit the cable hard. Pain lanced through Jason's shoulder as synthetic muscles stretched to their limit, but they held. The cable swung them in an arc, depositing them roughly on a maintenance platform far below their pursuers. "This way." Jason pulled Thea through a rusted doorway into the abandoned subway tunnel. Ancient emergency lights still cast a sickly glow over empty tracks and crumbling concrete. "They're still coming," Thea warned, pressing a hand to her temple. "So many minds, all focused on us. On me." She stumbled, and Jason caught her. "I'm worth too much to them. They'll never stop." "Then we'll keep running." He helped her over the tracks. "I didn't spend 5 years trying to be a better person just to let them turn you into dinner." She studied him for a moment, those golden eyes seeming to peer into his soul. "You're nothing like they said humans would be." "Yeah, well." He checked their position on his mental map. "Maybe I'm trying to make up for being exactly like that for too long." An explosion rocked the tunnel behind them, the consortium teams blasting their way down. But ahead, Jason's augmented vision picked out what he'd been looking for. A maintenance door marked with ancient Chinese characters. "Unauthorized access prohibited." "My contact's safe house is through there," he said. "Assuming she hasn't moved it. Assuming she doesn't shoot us on sight. Assuming a lot of things, actually." Thea laughed despite everything. "You're not very good at reassurance, are you?" better at shooting things. He forced the door open. Ready to trust a reformed bounty hunter with questionable plans? She glanced back at the approaching lights, then met his eyes with a smile that made his synthetic heart skip a beat. Lead the way, reformed bounty hunter. They slipped through the door just as another explosion lit up the tunnel. As it slammed behind them, Jason knew with absolute certainty that his carefully constructed life of luxury and isolation was over. He'd thrown it all away for a stranger with green skin and golden eyes. And somehow, for the first time in 5 years, he felt alive. The safe house was exactly as Jason remembered, a converted maintenance hub buried deep in New Shanghai's forgotten underground. Mei Lin hadn't changed it in 5 years, down to the perpetually flickering holo ads that masked the security systems. Your friend lives here? Thea wrinkled her nose at the musty air and crumbling concrete. Not exactly. Jason's augmented eye scanned for tripwires as they approached the main door. May's more of a professional acquaintance who probably won't shoot me on sight. Probably? Before he could answer, automated turrets emerged from the walls, their targeting lasers painting red dots across both their chests. A familiar voice crackled through hidden speakers. Jason Rivers. Mei Lin's tone was acid. You have some nerve showing up here after 5 years of radio silence. Good to hear your voice too, Mei. Jason kept his hands visible. Love what you've done with the place. Very post-apocalyptic chic. Give me one reason not to ventilate you right now. I need help. He gestured to Thea. We need help, and I'm willing to pay double your usual rates. A pause. The turrets didn't waver. Triple, Mei countered. Done. The turrets retracted. The door slid open with a hydraulic hiss, revealing a short Chinese woman in modified combat gear. Mei Lin hadn't aged a day, thanks to top-shelf genetic work, but her cybernetic eyes, gleaming silver in her weathered face, were colder than Jason remembered. She looked Thea up and down, whistling softly. Consortium property? You always did know how to complicate things, Rivers. She holstered her weapon. Inside, before you bring more trouble to my door. The safe house's interior was a stark contrast to its exterior, clean, well-lit, packed with cutting-edge tech. Weapon racks lined the walls. Holo screens displayed security feeds from across the Undercity. Sit. Mei gestured to a medical bay. Both of you look like hell. Jason didn't argue. His shoulder wound was starting to throb, and the fight in the maintenance shaft had definitely cracked something. Thea sank into a chair beside him, exhaustion finally showing on her perfect features. Mei grabbed a medical scanner. Talk while I work. What exactly did you do to piss off the consortium? Refused to eat her. Jason winced as Mei none too gently examined his shoulder. They're serving sentient beings as delicacies now. How long has that been happening? Longer than you think. Mei's silver eyes flicked to Thea. Though this is the first time I've seen one of her kind. Empaths are supposed to be extinct. Not extinct. Thea's voice was quiet. Hunted, harvested. They say our neural tissue produces unique chemical compounds, valuable for everything from cuisine to pharmaceuticals. Her hands clenched in her lap. My people tried hiding on remote worlds, but they found us. They always found us. She reached out absently, her fingers brushing Jason's arm. The contact sent a jolt through him. Not just emotion this time, but images. A peaceful settlement on a distant world. Ships descending from orbit. The screams of her people as they were rounded up like cattle. Thea's parents pushing her into a hidden compartment, telling her to stay quiet no matter what she heard. Jason jerked away, gasping. Thea pulled back as well, looking shocked. I'm sorry, she whispered. Sometimes when I'm tired, the memories leak. Interesting. Mei finished treating Jason's shoulder, her expression calculating. Very interesting. No wonder they want her back so badly. She moved to a bank of computers. Give me an hour to arrange transport. You can't stay in the city. They'll have locked down everything official by now. What about unofficial channels? Jason asked. Working on it. But first, May's fingers flew over holographic keys. Let's see exactly what we're dealing with. The screens filled with data, consortium shipping records, genetic research files, financial transactions. Jason's stomach turned as he saw the prices they commanded for exotic specimens. There, Thea pointed to one screen. That's their main processing facility, where she swallowed hard, where they prepare specimens for distribution. Jason studied the facility's schematics, heavily guarded but not impossible to infiltrate. With the right plan, no. May shot him a sharp look. I know that expression. Whatever you're thinking, stop. They have others there, Jason said quietly. Like her. Not your problem anymore. You got out of this life, remember? Became a respectable businessman? Yeah. Jason watched Thea studying the screens, saw the pain in her golden eyes. That didn't work out so well. Speaking of your respectable new life, May said, pulling up more data, you should see this. The screens showed Jason's accounts, all of them frozen, his properties seized, his legitimate business holdings dissolved, 5 years of carefully constructed respectability erased in hours. They're thorough, May noted, and they have friends in high places. Look who signed the seizure orders. Jason leaned closer, his augmented eye zooming in on the digital signatures. His blood ran cold. Cabinet ministers, military officials, names that appeared in news feeds standing beside the planetary governor. It goes all the way up, he breathed. Now do you understand? May's voice was sharp. This isn't just about one rescued empath. You've stumbled into something much bigger. Thea moved to stand beside Jason, close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her green skin. They're planning something that requires my people's abilities on a massive scale. Yeah, Jason muttered, and I think I know where we can find out what. He pointed to one of May's screens, a heavily encrypted data node in the processing facility's network. That's not normal security for a shipping operation. May cursed in 3 languages. I know that look too. You're going to do something stupid. Not stupid, necessary. Jason turned to Thea. But it's your choice. We can still try to get you off-world, somewhere safe. Those golden eyes studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled, a fierce, determined expression that made his synthetic heart stutter. My people have been running and hiding for too long. I want to fight. Idiots, May muttered. You're both idiots. But her fingers were already moving across the keyboards. Give me 2 hours. I'll get you what you need. The next hours passed in a blur of preparation. May's arsenal provided them with everything from stealth suits to EMP grenades. Jason's aging combat implants received emergency updates, though May warned they were still dangerously obsolete. I could do a full upgrade, she offered, but you'd need days to recover. No time. Jason checked the charge on a pulse rifle. We move tonight, before they can reinforce the facility. Your funeral. May turned to Thea, who was awkwardly handling a stunner. You ever used weapons before? No. My people were peaceful. Great. Just great. May showed her the basics. Try not to shoot yourself, or him. Actually, maybe shoot him if he gets too reckless. I heard that, Jason called from across the room. You were meant to. May's silver eyes narrowed. Speaking of reckless, we need to talk about Shanghai, about what happened 5 years ago. Jason's hand stilled on the weapon. No, we don't. That family, I said no. His voice was ice, but Thea had heard. She approached slowly, those golden eyes seeing too much. What family? It doesn't matter. It does. She reached for his hand. Show me. Thea, don't. But her fingers were already touching his, and the memories crashed over him like a tsunami. The rainy night in Shanghai's upper levels. The target, a smuggler who'd crossed the wrong people. The pursuit through residential blocks. The plasma rifle malfunction that turned an entire apartment into an inferno. The screams. Jason jerked away, his mechanical heart pounding. Thea's face was pale, but her hand found his again, squeezing gently. That's why you quit, she said softly. Why you tried to build a different life. Fat lot of good it did. He couldn't meet her eyes. First chance I got, I jumped right back into violence. To save me. Her other hand touched his face, turning him to look at her. That matters, Jason. The choices we make now matter more than the ones we made then. For a moment, he let himself believe her. Then May's computers chimed an alert, shattering the moment. Incoming transmission, May announced. One of my contacts in the Transport Guild claims he can get you off-world tonight. She frowned at the data. Something feels wrong about this. We don't need transport anymore. Jason checked his weapons one final time. We need to hit that facility. At least let me verify. The safe house's lights went red. Proximity alarms screamed. On the security feeds, armored figures swarmed through the tunnels. Trap, May spat. The contact sold us out. The first explosions rocked the walls. Jason grabbed Thea's hand. Back door, now! They ran as the safe house's defenses engaged. Automated turrets spitting plasma at the invaders. May's voice crackled over the comms. Secondary tunnel. I'll hold them here. May, Jason started. Just go. And Rivers, try not to wait 5 years before visiting again. The tunnel entrance sealed behind them as they fled, but not before Jason heard the distinctive whine of May's heavy weapons opening up. He pushed down the gilt and focused on running, his augmented eye painting their escape route through the darkness. They're in the tunnels too, Thea gasped beside him. So many mines. They're trying to hurt us somewhere. Let them try. Jason activated their stealth suits, the adaptive camouflage rippling over them like liquid shadow. We're not playing their game anymore. They moved through the Undercity's maze, avoiding the obvious routes. Jason's old instincts merged with Thea's empathic warnings, letting them stay one step ahead of pursuit. But the net was tightening. Every path they took seemed to lead them closer to the processing facility. It's almost like Thea paused, breathing hard, like they want us to go there. Definitely a trap. Jason checked their position. Good thing we're going to spring it. That's your plan. They think they know what we'll do. Let's prove them wrong. He pulled up the facility schematics May had provided. See this ventilation system? It's not on their security grid. They'll expect us to go in quiet, stick to the shadows. Understanding dawned in her golden eyes. So instead, we knock on the front door. Very, very hard. The processing facility rose before them like a metal mountain, its stark architecture a statement of power. Loading bays cycled endlessly, bringing in shipping containers that made Thea shudder. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter, backed by automated defense systems. They watched from a maintenance alcove as a massive transport ship descended toward the landing pad. Jason's targeting systems identified it as a high-security prisoner transport, heavily modified. That's how they moved us, Thea whispered. Those ships, they're designed to block our abilities, dampen them somehow. Jason squeezed her hand. Not anymore. He armed the EMP grenades May had given them. Ready to make some noise? Her answering smile was fierce. Very ready. The first explosion took out the facility's main power core. As alarms screamed and emergency systems engaged, they were already moving. Guards rushed to defend the obvious entry points, never expecting an attack from above. They rappelled onto the roof as chaos erupted below. Jason's boots magnetized to the metal surface as he placed shaped charges around the ventilation hub. 10 seconds. Stay close. The charges blew, tearing a hole straight down into the facility's secure levels. They dropped through before the smoke cleared, stealth suits shedding debris as they landed in what looked like a laboratory, and found themselves staring at rows of stasis tanks. Inside each tank floated a body, some human, some distinctly not, all connected to a nightmarish array of tubes and sensors. And at the far end of the room, "No," Thea breathed. "No, no, no." A massive tank dominated the wall, filled with a swirling green liquid that made Jason's combat system scream warnings. Suspended in the liquid were fragments of tissue, all with the same distinctive emerald tone as Thea's skin. "They're trying to synthesize it," she whispered. "Our abilities. They're breaking down my people's neural tissue to recreate the compounds." Before Jason could respond, the laboratory's doors hissed open. Armed figures poured in, weapons trained, and behind them walked a man in an immaculate white suit, smiling like he'd been expecting them all along. "Mr. Rivers," said the Minister of Scientific Development, "I believe you have something that belongs to us." Jason's combat systems highlighted a dozen weapons aimed at them, but his attention stayed on the minister, whose smile never reached his cold eyes. "Technically," Jason said, keeping his voice casual, "I paid for her. Premium rates too. Receipts probably still at the restaurant, assuming your goons didn't trash the place." "Ah, yes, the legal niceties." The minister chuckled. "But you see, Mr. Rivers, you purchased a meal, not a companion. The contract was quite specific about consumption requirements. Maybe I'm a slow eater. This isn't a joke." The minister's smile vanished. "Do you have any idea what you're interfering with? The potential applications of synthesized empathic compounds. Every military in the system wants this technology. Every corporation. The profit potential alone. Is that how you justify this?" Thea's voice shook with rage. "Murdering my people for profit? My dear, your people were already doomed. We simply found a way to derive value from the inevitable. Progress requires sacrifice." Jason's targeting systems were already mapping angles, calculating odds. Bad, very bad. But maybe progress? He laughed, drawing attention to himself. "Let's be honest, this isn't about progress. It's about power, control, the ability to manipulate emotions on a massive scale." His augmented eye caught Thea's subtle movement behind him. "But you overlooked something important." The minister raised an eyebrow. "Oh? And what's that?" "You really should have researched what I used to do for a living." Jason's EMP grenade detonated as Thea dove for cover. The laboratory plunged into darkness as systems crashed. His combat implants switched to infrared just in time to see the guards' targeting systems fail. Then, everything dissolved into chaos. Jason moved on pure instinct, years of muscle memory taking over. In close quarters against opponents relying on tech-enhanced targeting, he had the advantage. His obsolete implants might be outdated, but they were hardened against EMP, a lesson learned the hard way years ago. He dropped 3 guards before they could switch to manual targeting. A 4th went down to a precise strike to the throat. The 5th managed to fire, but the shot went wide in the darkness. Thea's voice rang out. "Left!" Jason rolled left without questioning, feeling energy bolts sizzle past. He came up firing, his stolen pulse rifle finding targets with mechanical precision. But there were too many. Even as he fought, more guards poured in through the emergency exits, and his aging implants were starting to redline, combat protocols pushing them to their limits. "The tanks!" Thea shouted. "Shoot the tanks!" Jason's rifle swung toward the massive container of synthesized compound. The minister's voice rang out, "Stop him!" Too late. The pulse rifle's charge emptied into the tank. Green liquid sprayed as the container shattered, flooding the laboratory with its contents. Alarms screamed as containment protocols engaged. "Do you realize what you've done?" the minister snarled, his perfect suit soaked and ruined. "Years of research is about to go public," Jason finished. He held up May's data spike, downloaded contents blinking green, along with proof of every illegal experiment, every murdered specimen, every bribed official, already uploading to every news feed in the system. The minister's face went white. "Kill them! Kill them now!" But the guards hesitated, their weapons wavering. Through the broken tank, more containers were becoming visible, and inside them, faces. Human faces, politicians, corporate leaders, military officials. "Think about it," Jason said to the guards. "Why would they need so many test subjects? What were they really planning to do with synthesized empathic compounds?" The guards looked at each other, at the tanks, at their employers. "Shoot them!" the minister screamed. "That's an order!" One guard lowered his weapon, then another, and another. "Looks like your employees have some questions about the operation," Jason said. "I'm sure the media will too. Not to mention all those corporate sponsors in the tanks." The minister pulled a small pistol from his jacket. "Then I'll do it myself." He fired. Jason moved without thinking, pushing Thea aside. Pain exploded in his chest as the round punched through his armor. The last thing he saw was Thea's face, her golden eyes wide with horror. Then darkness took him. Pain dragged Jason back to consciousness. His cybernetics were screaming alerts, critical damage, systems failing, medical protocols engaged. But something else cut through the darkness, a warmth spreading from his hand, where Thea's fingers intertwined with his. He forced his eyes open. They were in a moving vehicle, one of May's medical transports by the look of the equipment. Thea sat beside him, her green skin pale with exhaustion, both hands clasped around his. "Don't try to move," she said softly. "You got lucky. The round missed your synthetic heart, but—" "The minister?" Jason managed. "In custody, along with most of the facility's staff." Her lips curved in a grim smile. "Turns out even corrupt officials have trouble explaining away tanks full of missing politicians. The news feeds are having a field day." Jason tried to sit up, but his body refused to cooperate. "The data. Safe. May's already released it through her networks. The whole system knows what they were doing now." She squeezed his hand. What they were planning to do. Memory flickered. The tanks, the test subjects, the horrifying scale of it all. "Mass emotional control," he whispered. "They wanted to manipulate entire populations, using synthetic compounds derived from my people." Thea's voice cracked. "All those deaths. They were just practice runs, perfecting the process for something much worse." Jason's damaged systems were starting to shut down, darkness creeping at the edges of his vision. But he forced himself to focus on her face, on those remarkable golden eyes. "Your people," he managed. "There might be others, hidden. Rest." She touched his face gently. "We'll find them, together, once you're healed." He wanted to respond, but the darkness was pulling him under. The last thing he felt was Thea's mind brushing his, not memories this time, but emotions. Gratitude, determination, and something else, something warm and fierce that made his synthetic heart skip even in its damaged state. Then the medical systems engaged their emergency protocols, and everything faded to black. When Jason next opened his eyes, he was in an unmarked medical facility deep in the Undercity. May sat in a corner cleaning a massive rifle with methodical precision. "Welcome back to the land of the living," she said without looking up. "More or less." Jason tried to speak, found his throat too dry. May handed him water. "Thea?" "Safe. following up leads on other survivors of her species. May's cybernetic eyes gleamed. The consortium wasn't the only group hunting them, but they were the most ambitious and the most careless. How long was I out? 3 days. You needed extensive repairs. She finally met his gaze. The good news is, I took the liberty of upgrading your combat systems while you were under. Consider it a get-well present. And the bad news? The government's in chaos. Half the corporate sector is under investigation, and every criminal organization in the system is scrambling to either hide their connection to the consortium or profit from its collapse. She smiled grimly. In other words, business as usual, but much more dangerous for people in our line of work. I'm not in that line of work anymore, Jason started to say. No? May raised an eyebrow. Then why did Thea say you promised to help find her people? Before he could respond, the door opened. Thea entered carrying food that smelled far better than standard medical fare. Her face lit up when she saw him awake. You should eat, she said, setting down the containers. We have a lot of work to do. Jason looked between them, May with her knowing smirk, Thea with her fierce determination. He thought of the life he'd built over the past 5 years, the careful isolation, the attempts at respectability. All gone now, replaced by something far more dangerous, and far more worthwhile. Yeah, he said, managing to sit up. I guess we do. That's the last one? Jason asked, examining the holographic blueprint hovering above May's planning table. Main logistics hub, May confirmed. Their central nervous system. All shipping records, genetic data, and prisoner processing runs through here. Her silver eyes narrowed. Also, their heaviest security. After what you did to their research facility, they're expecting trouble. 2 weeks had passed since the facility raid. 2 weeks of healing, planning, and watching the system tear itself apart as the consortium's secrets spilled across the news feeds. But it wasn't enough. The deeper they dug, the more horror they uncovered. They're moving their remaining specimens off-world, Thea said, her fingers trailing through the hologram. I can feel them. So much fear. She looked at Jason, golden eyes hard. We have one chance before they disappear forever. Jason nodded, checking his upgraded combat systems. The new implants hummed with deadly efficiency, a far cry from his old obsolete hardware. How many prisoners? At least 200, May said. Multiple species. They're consolidating everything they can salvage before going dark. She pulled up security feeds. External defenses include automated turrets, hunter-killer drones, and at least 50 armed guards. Internal security is worse. Perfect. Jason grinned. They'll never expect a frontal assault. Because it's suicide, May snapped. Even with the upgrades, you're talking about attacking a fortress. No. Thea stepped closer to the hologram, her green skin catching the light. We're talking about freeing my people, all of them. She turned to Jason. I have an idea, but you're not going to like it. She was right. He didn't. The plan was elegantly simple and absolutely insane. While Jason created a very loud, very visible distraction at the main entrance, Thea would allow herself to be captured. Her empathic abilities, combined with inside access, would let her locate and free the prisoners while security focused on Jason. Absolutely not, he said for the 3rd time. Too risky. Says the man planning to attack an army. Thea's voice was steel. This is our best chance. You know it is. He did. That's what made it worse. If anything goes wrong, he started, then I'll have you to rescue me. She smiled, touching his face. Again. The contact sent a flutter of emotions through their growing bond. Determination, trust, and that fierce warmth that made his synthetic heart race. He caught her hand, holding it against his cheek for a moment longer. Fine, he growled, But we do this exactly by the numbers. No improvising. May snorted. Says the king of improvisation. The next hours passed in careful preparation. They studied guard rotations, security protocols, building schematics. Jason's new combat systems downloaded everything, processing tactical options faster than he'd ever experienced. Finally, as New Shanghai's artificial dawn painted the Undercity in false light, they stood ready. "Remember," May said, handing them each encrypted communicators, "you've got maybe 20 minutes before reinforcements arrive from orbital security. Get in, get it done, get out." "What about you?" Jason asked. "I'll be coordinating the extraction vehicles for the prisoners, and—" She smiled grimly. "Creating some distractions of my own. The consortium isn't the only one with friends in high places." Thea hugged her, surprising them both. "Thank you for everything. Just don't die." May's silver eyes found Jason's. "Either of you. I'm getting too old for new friends." They made their way through maintenance tunnels toward the logistics hub. The massive structure rose from the Undercity's depths like a metal mountain, its surfaces gleaming with security sensors and weapons emplacements. "Ready?" Jason asked as they reached their separation point. Thea answered by pulling him into a kiss. Her lips were soft, but the emotions that flooded their connection were anything but determination, fear, hope, and something deeper that neither of them had dared name yet. "Stay alive," she whispered against his mouth. "I just found you. I'm not losing you now." Then she was gone, slipping away into the shadows. Jason watched until she disappeared, then checked his weapons one final time. Time to make some noise. The first explosion took out the hub's eastern sensor array in a spectacular fireball. As alarms screamed and guards rushed to respond, Jason was already moving. His new combat systems flowed like liquid mercury, enhancing every movement. "Multiple contacts," his tactical display warned, "hunter-killer drones deploying." The drones emerged from concealed bays, sleek, deadly machines with cutting-edge targeting systems. Jason's augmented eye marked their attack vectors as he sprinted across open ground, pulse rifles spitting energy bolts. 2 drones exploded in midair. A third managed to graze his armor before joining them. But they'd served their purpose, drawing attention exactly where he wanted it. "Primary target identified." Someone was shouting through security channels. "Rivers! It's Rivers!" "I'm touched," Jason muttered, diving behind a cargo container as turret fire stitched the ground where he'd been. "You remember me." His tactical display showed guard positions, highlighting optimal attack routes. But he didn't need to win. Just keep them busy. Somewhere inside, Thea would be making her move. More explosions rocked the complex, May's distractions joining the party. Jason used the chaos to advance, taking out security systems and guards with precise shots. No fatalities. These weren't the ones who deserved it. Perimeter breach. The security channels were chaos. "Multiple breaches. How many are there?" "Enough," Jason answered, though they couldn't hear him. He triggered another series of charges, bringing down a sensor tower. "Keep counting." His comm crackled. Thea's voice, barely a whisper. "I'm in." Security bought the Escaped Specimen Act completely, heading for the central processing area now. "Be careful," he sub-vocalized through their encrypted channel. "These aren't restaurant rent-a-cops." "Neither am I." Jason smiled despite himself, then cursed as heavy weapons fire forced him into cover. They were adapting, bringing up military-grade equipment. His tactical displays painted an increasingly complicated battlefield. Perfect. He threw himself back into the fight, drawing as much attention as possible. His new combat systems performed flawlessly, letting him push harder than ever before. But the opposition was mounting. Security teams had stopped trying to capture him and switched to lethal force. A plasma bolt caught him in the leg, his armor barely holding. Another scorched his shoulder. Warnings flashed across his vision. Shield integrity failing, ammunition running low. Timer activated, Thea reported through the comm. Databases beginning purge. But Jason, there are so many prisoners. More than we thought. I'll need more time. Take it, he growled, ducking another barrage. I can hold them. Orbital reinforcements incoming, his tactical display warned. ETA 7 minutes. Jason checked his remaining weapons and ammunition. Not nearly enough for what was coming, but he'd known this was probably a one-way trip. Then his comm crackled again. May's voice. Incoming gift, Rivers. Try not to scratch the paint. Something massive dropped from the artificial sky. A combat exoskeleton, military grade, definitely not legal for civilian use. It landed beside him with ground-shaking force. I love you, May, Jason breathed, already climbing in as his combat systems interfaced with the machine. I know, she answered smugly. Now go make them regret everything. The exoskeleton systems came online, and Jason Rivers, former bounty hunter, failed businessman, and unexpected hero, smiled. Then he stood up, 4 meters of armored death, and went to war. The exoskeleton moved like an extension of his body, combat systems meshing seamlessly with his upgrades. Heavy weapons deployed from shoulder mounts as he strode through the security force's barrage, their weapons barely scratching the military-grade armor. Warning! His tactical display flashed. Multiple heavy weapon signatures detected. Security teams were deploying their own combat units, lighter models, but still dangerous. Jason charged into them, the exoskeleton's enhanced strength letting him tear through their formation. How's that timeline looking? He sub-vocalized to Thea. Almost there. Her voice was strained. But we have a problem. The consortium leadership is here, in a secure bunker below the processing level. Jason smashed another security mech, his displays marking more incoming hostiles. How is that a problem? Because they're not just hiding. The rage in her voice made his synthetic heart skip. They're preparing to execute everyone they can't evacuate, including some of my people. I can feel them, Jason. They're so scared. The tactical displays showed orbital reinforcements entering the atmosphere. Time was running out. But the thought of everything they'd done, everyone they'd hurt. Where? He asked. Sub-level 3, but the security won't matter. He triggered the exoskeleton's heavy weapons, clearing a path to the building. Get the prisoners out. I'll handle the leadership. Jason, her emotions flooded their connection. Fear, determination, that unnamed feeling growing stronger between them. Be careful. Always am. Liar. He laughed, then crashed through the hub's main entrance in a shower of metal and glass. Internal security responded immediately. Automated turrets, drone swarms, guard teams. The exoskeleton's weapons made short work of them as he fought his way deeper. His tactical displays mapped the route down, highlighting structural weaknesses. The leadership's bunker would be hardened against conventional attacks, but with the right application of force, orbital units deploying, his systems warned, 90 seconds to engagement. Jason reached the sealed doors leading to sub-level 3. Behind them, his sensors detected multiple life signs, and something else, energy readings consistent with mass execution devices. No time for subtlety. He backed the exoskeleton up, diverting power to its primary systems. The bunker might be hardened, but it wasn't designed to withstand a military assault unit at point-blank range. Warning! His displays flashed. Structural damage may compromise. Jason triggered everything. Weapons, enhanced strength, momentum generators. The exoskeleton hit the doors like a meteor. The bunker's defenses never stood a chance. He crashed through in a storm of torn metal and broken security systems, weapons already tracking targets. Inside, he found exactly what he'd expected: consortium leadership preparing to eliminate their assets rather than risk capture. What he didn't expect was their leader. "Hello, Jason," said a familiar voice. "I've been expecting you." The Minister of Scientific Development stood calmly before a bank of controls, looking remarkably composed for someone who just had their bunker breached. Around him, other consortium leaders scrambled for weapons or cover. "Shouldn't you be in custody?" Jason kept the exoskeleton's weapons trained on the group. The minister smiled. "Did you really think a few corrupt officials and leaked data would bring down an organization like ours? We have contingencies, powerful friends. A few weeks in a minimum security facility was a small price for maintaining appearances." Behind him, rows of stasis pods lined the walls. Jason's sensors detected life signs, weak but present. Among them, the distinctive biological signatures of Thea's people. "Step away from the controls," Jason ordered. "Or what? You'll kill us?" The minister's smile widened. "That's not your style anymore, is it? The reformed bounty hunter playing at redemption. Try me. I don't need to." The minister's hand hovered over a red control panel. One press, and every stasis pod in this facility overloads. Hundreds of specimens eliminated, including the last known survivors of the empath species. Is that what you want? Jason's tactical displays screamed warnings. Orbital forces were breaching the upper levels, security teams converging, time running out. But something else caught his attention: movement in the shadows behind the minister, a flash of green skin. "You know what I've never understood," Jason said, keeping the minister's attention. "For someone so obsessed with controlling emotions, you're really bad at reading them." The minister frowned. "What?" Thea's hand touched the back of his neck. The minister went rigid as pure, unfiltered emotion flooded his neural pathways. Every bit of fear, pain, and rage from his victims concentrated into a single moment. He screamed, collapsing. The other leaders tried to run, but Jason's weapons kept them contained. "That's the thing about empathy," Thea said, her golden eyes hard. "It works both ways." She moved to the control panel, fingers flying over the interfaces. Around them, stasis pods began powering down safely. Containment fields dissolved, and in the pods, eyes started to open. "We need to move," Jason said. "This place is about to get very crowded." Thea nodded, then paused. "Jason, what the minister said about redemption." Later. He extended the exoskeleton's hand to her. "Right now, we have a family to save." She smiled, that fierce, beautiful expression that made everything worth it, and took his hand. Time to finish what they'd started. The next hours passed in a blur of controlled chaos. May's extraction teams arrived just ahead of orbital security, loading freed prisoners onto stealth transports. Among them were 5 of Thea's people, weak, traumatized, but alive. Jason coordinated the evacuation from the exoskeleton, his combat systems managing multiple threats simultaneously. When orbital forces finally breached the facility, they found only empty pods and detained consortium leaders, the minister still catatonic from Thea's emotional overload. "Last transport away," May reported through their secure channel. "Time to go." They made their way to the surface through maintenance shafts, leaving the damaged exoskeleton behind. Emergency services were arriving in force, too late to stop them, but enough to make escape interesting. "I know a place," Jason said as they reached May's waiting vehicle. "An abandoned terraforming outpost on Mars, off the grid, self-sufficient. I bought it years ago as a backup plan." "Running away again?" Thea asked softly. "No." He met her golden eyes. "Starting over, with family." She smiled, understanding. The other survivors would need time to heal, to rebuild, somewhere safe, away from those who would hunt them. It won't be easy, she warned. The consortium had powerful allies. They'll come looking eventually. Let them try. Jason pulled her close as May's vehicle lifted off, leaving New Shanghai's glittering towers behind. We'll be ready. Through their strengthening bond, he felt her emotions merge with his, hope, determination, and that deeper feeling they could finally name. Love, born in chaos but tempered into something stronger. They sat in comfortable silence as the vehicle climbed higher, the city shrinking below. Finally, Thea spoke. You never did get your dinner that night. Jason laughed, the sound startled out of him. I think I got something better. Much better, she agreed, her green skin glowing in the artificial dawn, though I do make an excellent soup. Is that a promise? It's a beginning. As New Shanghai vanished behind them, Jason Rivers, former bounty hunter, failed businessman, and accidental hero, realized he'd finally found what he'd been searching for all along. Not redemption, exactly, but purpose, connection, family. The road ahead would be dangerous. There would be battles to fight, wounds to heal, trust to rebuild, but they would face it together. And somehow, that made all the difference. Epilogue. Home is where the heart is, even if it's synthetic. 1 year later, Martian outpost, New Beginnings. Jason stood at the window of their terraformed dome, watching the double sunset paint the Martian landscape in shades of red and gold. Behind him, the sounds of laughter and conversation filled their home, a sound he'd once thought he'd never hear again. If you're done brooding dramatically by the window, Thea's amused voice called from the kitchen, dinner's almost ready. I'm not brooding, he protested, turning. I'm tactically observing. Of course you are, dear. The kitchen was chaos in the best possible way. Thea stood at the stove, her green skin dusted with flour, stirring something that smelled amazing. Around the large table, several of her rescued people chatted with May, who dropped by for her weekly security inspection, which mostly involved stealing food and telling embarrassing stories about Jason. You know, May said, sipping her wine, when I gave him those combat upgrades, I didn't expect him to use them for installing hydroponic systems. Better than getting shot at, Jason replied, stealing a taste from Thea's pot and earning a playful swat. Boring, you mean? But May's cybernetic eyes sparkled. Though I have to admit, you've made this place cozy. It was true. The former military outpost had transformed over the past year. Gardens flourished under the dome. The harsh military architecture had softened with personal touches, and most importantly, it had filled with people. Survivors building new lives, supporting each other, becoming family. By the way, Thea said casually, we're adopting another cat. We are not, Jason began. We are. She smiled sweetly. I already felt your emotions about it. You're excited. That's cheating. That's marriage. May choked on her wine. You two are ridiculous. But Jason couldn't argue, especially when Thea's hand found his, their bond humming with shared joy and contentment. Sure, there were still threats out there, powerful people who'd love to capture or kill them. But here, in this moment, with his impossible family around him. Fine, he sighed, but I get to name this one. Absolutely not, everyone said in unison. As laughter filled their home, Jason Rivers, former bounty hunter, failed businessman, and surprisingly good gardener, realized that sometimes the best meals are the ones you don't eat after all, even if they try to adopt too many cats. The end. For real this time. Unless May brings another exoskeleton. Well, there you have it. The story of a guy who ordered takeout and ended up with a family instead. Not exactly your typical dinner date gone wrong scenario, but hey, The heart wants what the heart wants, even if it's synthetic. If there's a moral here, it's probably always read the fine print on your exotic restaurant orders. Or maybe don't try to eat someone who can read your emotions. But mostly, it's about finding yourself in the last place you'd expect, usually right after blowing something up. Thanks for coming along for the ride. And remember, if someone ever serves you a person for dinner, the proper response is to start a revolution. It's just good manners. Cheers. The author, P.S. May, says hi. She also says you still owe her for that exoskeleton.